Here.
That's right.
Okay, we'll call the Finance and Human Resource Committee meeting to order on March 7th, 2024. Roll call, Grundon,
Here.
McGregor.
Here.
I see that President Mansell's here and our administrator is here. I think,
Dwayne.
there he is, Dwayne. I knew that you were gonna say something. A motion to approve the agenda and approve the previous minutes from February 8th, 2024.
I so move to approve the agenda and the previous committee minutes.
Second.
Motion by McGregor, second by Grundon. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Public comments on the agenda. I've seen no public here at the Marshall Wheeler Center,
Nobody online.
nobody online.
No public.
Chairman comments. I did look at all the entries, the bills, and everything seemed to be nothing that really was outstanding. So I have no comments. That brings us to number 7.
I'm sorry.
Oh, do we have somebody that has a comment on a chairman's comments? Trustee Grundon, do we have somebody that has comments on that? No. Okay, I guess I would like to make a comment. I'd like to thank trustee McGregor, because this will be our last finance and human.
No, you
resource.
get one more.
One
You
more.
get one more.
Oh, do you? Okay, well then we'll.
There's an
do that.
April one apparently.
Yeah,
Okay. well,
no
good.
ducking them out early.
Yeah, no ducking you out early, you're staying in.
Save it.
Okay.
Or do you want to?
Don't bring your mask next time. Okay, that's
More
okay.
effort, Lon, like write something up, a scroll.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Roll.
Noted.
A discussion and motion to approve the monthly bills, journal entries, and previous month's financial report. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion by Grundon, second by McGregor. Discussion. I guess, like I said before, I viewed all of it. I hope everybody else has. Looks like we're pretty much where we should be, but February was a relatively fair month for finances. Snow plowing, of course, is down, and that's all a good thing for taxpayers and everyone, so. Hearing of no other discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Hearing no nay, motion passes. Number 8, to discuss and possible motion on increasing the summer help wages. I'll make the motion. Or,
Okay, motion by Rick.
Are we
I
gonna
guess,
put a
looking for
dollar
discussion.
amount?
It's right
We have
here.
to,
to the motion?
Was it?
Well, you got-
Was it?
But on the thing, it doesn't.
we can amend it to,
I'll second the motion.
Second by McGregor. Okay, discussion, I guess the discussion that I had with our Public Works Director, Ben Martinson, is we have 2 applicants. And one's a returning one from last year and the other one is a new applicant. What he's willing to do, so it won't affect the budget, is just hire 2 this year, because that's all we have for interest in the position. And he suggests, and I agree, that we up the wage. We're paying if you go to our summer help here, year 1's 11, year 2's 11.50, year 3's 12. Proposes next to it 13, 14, and 15. Other communities, and I don't like to say other communities, because I don't like to, Fort Edwards is unique. We're our own community. But we all know in the job market and young kids that need money for college and the inflation and everything else, because we felt it here. And I don't think it's unreasonable to pay a summer help $13 or $14 or even $15 an hour if they're dedicated and coming back. Especially when they probably could go and, let's just be honest, flip burger somewhere or do something and probably make more, if not the same.
I
And
think it's still under, for the work that they do. It's hard physical labor and heat and the elements. And I mean, it's just my opinion, but I think,
I mean,
I couldn't recommend anybody to come work at the village for summer help.
Or
The-
did you say we do have two applicants interested?
yes, we have two applicants that are interested. And so he would be willing to just go with the two people.
Mhm.
That way the increase wouldn't really affect the budget. I think that was nice on his part to do that, because you know how the budget is, we all do. And, I do agree with you. I mean, 13, even at
You can
13,
go flip burgers, have a lot more flexibility in your schedule.
I mean, these kids work just as hard as some of the full-time people that we have work. They have to be 18 and drive a vehicle, I believe, isn't it?
No, they don't have to
Somerville?
be.
Oh, they don't have to be,
So what-
16 and be able to drive.
Yeah.
So what is the current budget for this year? So he wants to be able to keep it within whatever we,
We gave
Is
to
it-
him before.
The current budget would be 20,700
okay.
for all three workers, if they were second-year
So-
workers.
And then what's proposed is 16.
16,800, so it'd be well under the budget.
So how far can we go and stay within budget?
If you read this right,
So we would have one first year, then one second year?
on
this
third year.
Oh,
third
when
year.
they're, okay.
So the current rate would be 13, 18, but if you go with the proposal, it'll be 1680.
Mhm.
And what he had is, proposed rate, he would end up being right with the budget at that point. If you, had all three workers, then you'd be over the budget 2017, so by doing it too, he's staying within the budget of the summer help,
By the proposed
by the
rates.
proposed rate.
Yes, okay.
So you're looking at the total budget, you stay within the budget rate that was put in the budget by going with two, not three. And because the only, I think if you're at this point, if you're looking at 2024's summer help rate, you should approve all three of those, even if you don't have one there, that rate's out there.
Since these are wages, is it capped, I guess? I mean, what does it factor as far as hours? I mean, since it's not a salary, does that make, I mean, how does he figure out what it end up gonna be?
The hours that he normally has last year that he puts, that comes in, they do so many hours per year. And he had three people, so many hours per year, now he's just taking, I got two people, so many hours a year, so it's gonna cover the same dollar amount.
Okay.
He
So I
doesn't-
think it's like 40 hours a week.
Right.
I was gonna say, is it weekly or
Yes.
just sort of as?
No, it's a weekly rate through the summer from a certain period of time, they can come,
Okay.
and when they
Okay.
leave.
So that's,
Can we, look at this and do this proposed rate, and then if the two candidates fulfill their summer obligations, can we look at saying that we give them a bonus or something if we have monies that, I don't know, just a thought.
Don't do that.
Don't do that? No. Yeah, cause
I would propose rather than, changing the rates. We have budgeted 20,700. He knows who he has working for him. We allow Ben as the department head to have some flexibility on deciding the hourly rate. As a board, we're approving the 20,700. Don't think we want to get into creating or changing however many employees or whatever else. That's what we've approved. If he can work within that, let him use his judgment.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I don't agree with you on that, only because, I mean, we have to set the hourly rate for like the police officers and the other public work. So I think that's how we stay consistent, and that's how we have it documented. This is how we go forward.
and Boss made a big deal about the number of spots and employees. But I mean, it's sort of okay if he says, I want 2 instead of 3, it doesn't affect
And
the
That,
total.
I think that should be his call more than,
something,
Yeah.
because I know what he went, Boz went through here's all the spots that's possible.
Right.
And,
Right.
and,
But yeah, if he wants only two and he thinks that the work is manageable, I think that's more his call.
Basically, you set the budget already, it's done. And what you did, department budget's got the budget, so you could hire one. And be higher rate or two, but when the department head decided that I would like to increase the rate this much and I'm staying within budget. Done.
I agree.
That's that's our role, and then your role is saying, we'll approve his recommendation.
Right, and that's basically what I was saying. But the thing, I don't think we want to change up the job positions, because what about next
I was
year? What
gonna
if we're
say,
not
what if he
prepared to
wants to go
sustain
three?
that?
What should
Oh,
happen,
I see what you're saying. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
what happens when you do the budget next year, the dollar amount. When Ben puts his number in, you want him to set these rates earlier. And he would know, and I know it, and what the market rate would be. And each year you may have, next year in 2025, you may have to increase these rates again just to get people. So you set that ahead of time and you set the budget that amount for that amount of people now. If the problem is sometimes you can't, I know this, you can't get people.
Mhm.
And that's when I was another committee, we couldn't get people, so we had to go back to the board, do amendment for the wage portion. But then to put the advertisement out again, so. At this point, I think you should take his recommendation, and then when it comes to next year budget process, set your rate when you set the police department rate and the rest of it. And then set that amount in the budget.
So circling back, this motion is, we need it more precise.
Right.
So who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Somebody's gotta make an amendment. You can do it. Amendment to with the proposed rates, read them all off.
Okay, I will amend the proposed motion for the proposed rates, first year 13 an hour, second year 14 an hour, third year 15 an hour. I'm looking for a second.
do you have a question before?
Yeah.
Should get the second.
We
Yeah.
need the second for first for before discussion.
What's the second?
There hasn't been a second. It was just,
Well, never was a second.
No, this is the.
oh, the
proposed.
the first one was by Radke, seconded by McGregor. He's amending the motion,
McGregor's gotta agree with it.
and then, yes.
So was your question about what he said or about?
Well,
needs
it's,
to be after?
If we have discussion, we probably have to.
We have to
second.
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 so our,
We have to have a second before the
Okay, then I
discussion.
second the motion as amended.
Okay,
Okay.
so as our org chart reads, it's 3 people.
Mhm.
We're bumping up the budget if we don't do it in a way, because so now,
well, realistically, we're only gonna be, there's only 2 people that are interested, that's all we can get.
right, but we still have to look at, we're setting a standard moving forward. So
For
that,
2024.
right, but if we're not gonna say in 2025 necessarily, oh, we don't have the money for that, we're cutting your wage.
When it comes to 2025, you should set the wage before you get to this point.
Mhm.
And what I'm saying is you set your wage and you set the budget. If the budget you can't cover it in the budget, you only set so much in the budget, then you have to go back and. cut your
Right,
wage.
so what I'm suggesting is that in the motion, we have to have something that ties us that way. Or
I think
otherwise,
we just do it when it comes budget time.
Yeah. Because what you're doing is you're setting the weight. And Ben's asked for that. And then Ben still has to do those wages within the budget he has. No matter if he hires 1, 2, or 3. He's got these rates. And if he wants a third one, he's gonna have to come back and say, you gotta stay within.
He's
budget."
only budgeted so much money this year, so
Sure,
even
yeah.
if he hires a third one,
Well,
then, yeah,
you can't.
well,
he can't. Or he can only work them to what we have proposed for our
Right.
budget.
I still think it's too low. Whatever we all think, but honestly, those kids, it's a big commitment.
Right, and I think what we should do is come budget time, we have to think about this.
Mhm.
We have to think about it now because our budget, when it comes time, we're scrambling in October. And we really have to think about these things way ahead of time
Yeah.
Well,
because
and I'm
I
thankful
don't
that
wanna
Ben
be
brought
part-
this up.
right.
I was bringing it up at budget time.
Right,
But
Right.
this $11 an hour to do that kind of work.
but I think
forget
this
it.
will satisfy this year, but I think
Yeah.
you're right, and I
I-
think we're gonna have to really look at that.
I mean, I guess, I mean, for the record, I think we know that it's slow, but in some ways, sometimes these things have to be gradual.
Mhm.
Cause if, I was thinking about if we bind ourselves to have two people back up to the 20,000, then we're really gonna have to do a lot of work next year to increase it well beyond 20 if we want a third person. So I think having that wiggle room.
Well, when we
gonna be
increased it, we
practical.
could increase that line item. And again, allow Ben, who would be the person that would know really what the background of these kids are. And to have somebody that's coming back for the second or third year, that's a far cry from the first year for somebody that maybe their parents taught them how to work, maybe not.
You will find, you don't know who these people are, and you will find someone would rather do that than sit in a McDonald's store. They'd rather be on them, or they'd rather be
So,
free.
Well, they might want that experience
They like,
because,
they wanna be.
hey,
on.
I worked for the village for
Yeah.
3 years, I
You can
operate
go
this
either
or
way.
did this, you
It
know.
goes either way.
Yeah.
And since you did hit the math for us,
Mhm.
more or less the line item would have to be 25,200
Right,
for all three positions. So we just have to
all you're doing is giving the rates and he's.
figure out
he's
that
determined to get to
plus
it.
the increase next year is probably gonna be around 30,000 next year. You know, with when I
Right,
was
right.
on that too, so.
Okay, so we have
Okay,
the amended
Amended a
Motion.
motion,
Radke, McGregor.
any
So
other
that
discussion?
we're all-
None, we'll take a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Hi,
Any
I thought
opposed,
I
say
heard
nay.
Caleb say, aye, aye, aye.
Hearing no nay, that will pass his recommendation.
And I'm really glad Ben brought that forward.
Old business. I guess you're in new business, I thought that was gonna be under old, but we'll put it under new. No old business. Number 10, discussion on new business, and Administrator Dwayne will tell us here a little bit about the improvement plan, as he calls it, the IP.
PIP.
PIP, given by someone else.
Personal improvement.
Plan.
Okay,
So the personal improvement plan was put together by a combination of Minister, me and Eric Hummel, because Eric Hummel was gonna participate in helping on this process. So Eric Hummel and I would be all the dark portions. In it, we also said that, or I said to him that we need to do it in conjunction with the fire chief to get his input on it. And you can see the red is my discussion, and he had his jotted down, mine his, so I put it into that, so you can see the red. Immediately he asked, he says, we need to up to date days, instead of 120 days, he said 180 days, that's because of he's volunteer and he wants a portion of it. As you can see, going through it, I had certain things, the first bullet is the best underneath the process and description. Well, we changed the PFC requirements, so they're looking for that piece. That's for the notification for a position open, which we have right now. But him and I, we got notices out in my newsletter and his, on the Facebook that we are looking for him, but we haven't had a real paper application yet because of my timeline, my stuff in his time. Remember, the second bullet has been completed and it was used. The last recommendation to the Public Service Commission on the, a recommendation of a assistant chief. So both of us got that complete. He did his piece, I did mine, and they used it, and I could tell in their minutes. I just read them today that they were pleased with that portion. What's the third bullet? The third bullet, grievance procedure, grievance, and this, well, we have steps grievance process. The problem we have is that the village has theirs through the handbook, but the handbook doesn't address it going through the Public Service PFC. So that process is through the PFC, not through any village departments. So we have to amend, I can work with both the chief and the chair of PFC on that process. So when PFC chair comes back, then we work on it. I just talked about that one. Develop a leave, that is pretty well, it's in the talk, it's already kind of addressed in the bylaws. I think if Cal remembers that they talked about the leave pieces. So parts of it's already kind of described in the bylaws. 24 budget training. Yeah, but interesting, I had monthly, he had yearly, and we compromised on a quarterly, so it doesn't take us so long to develop a spreadsheet. That, after talking to him, that can be done because all I have to do is work off of, there's someone that keeps a track of the training piece, and all we're gonna do, we can put in a spreadsheet instead of just doing a hand portion of it. Let's recommend additional training individual, again, they have a training process, they do it, they have a list again, but basically, I looked at it monthly, he asked to back it off farther, I compromise it quarterly, so we can stay on top of it, but these are just almost a do list.
Which one are you on again?
I'm on, list of additional training and individual staff to take place in 2024. Recommended additional training. He developed a list of firefighters that need additional training that are in date and time. He already has a list of who does what, and who comes to training. But then we need to take that list and see he knows and the department knows who's not up to state on the training. And we want to get in the matrix so we can find out, as I as administrator, work for the department, know who's behind or who's not ahead. So we have a track of it. May find out that everybody's okay, but I also feel that some people must be some lack in some training in certain areas. And the ones we know for sure are the associates, a portion of it. And also that's important when you take a look at promotions. Promotion pieces, you need to have yourself trained to a certain level to be promoted to another officer. It's just get documentation more than it's getting on paper. As a teaching plan, the growth and maintain positive cooperative working relationship. Yeah, that was more. What I did, I changed that part. And basically in that review, I pointed out, we review the existing SOGs. A lot of that's in the SOGs and other departments and other fire departments, this whole paragraph. I have reviewed the SOGs that he provided with us, and you all know this, you've been around here long enough, our SOGs are old and stale. And they need to be updated. Apparently, after talking to the chief, we call him Brazil, Ray did some drafting of some, and it was already given to the chief. The chief's going to provide that to me. I cannot find a Word document in our system. I looked all over, so, and the chief is Jason says I got something, so in a PDF and a handwritten one. So I'm going to get that to see what's been done. So if we have the SOGs have pretty well drafted for this organization, we don't have to reinvent the wheel again. But apparently, according to Chief, Ray was working with him on that or provided something. I need to find that. This is kind of a lot. The first one is just getting stuff in place that is normal practices that a fire department needs to have on hand. And being very honest with you, as you have turnover, the chief or other ones may not even, I know when I left here, Patrick, him and I were starting to work on the SOGs. And he was working together, and he was learning and understanding what the Lexipol has. Jason does understand what Lexipol has. He knows it out there because I already showed him. If you need something, I gave him examples of what other can you have. So he knows them. He's already said ours is real old. We got to update him. So he's admitted to that. Mindset and behavior. This has got more Eric's discussion in it because he was going to help me on this piece. Participate in leadership assessment. Chief asked what I meant by that. I says, we need to have you identify we didn't know who our chief said leadership style and what we got to put him into a process to see what his leadership style is, to see where he's at and understand it. And then the idea of that is that always have a different type of leadership style. We need to identify the chiefs. So once you identify the chief, you can have a better way of trying to get a better relationship with the rest of this department. Again, that's the second one too. Demonstrate ability to improve and maintain positive organization, working relationship with significant stakeholders. That's basically the fire chief with his fire department, with the citizens, the PFC, and even the village board. It says right in here. Once you know his leadership style, you got to mentor him or train him, I'm using Eric's words. Train him to be able to operate with what he has, what every chief organization, it's even been or else always has a certain group of staff, and they have come with different, I want to say it, different positive portion, and they all come with their own skeletons in the closet, so each one has a different, and you all work with different organizations, you know that. Department leaders, I'm sorry, training officer and firefighters, the expectation and code of conduct. What is kind of nice, I've been looked at other ones, we kind of have mentioned that in our bylaws. If you remember that, we had a little bit in the bylaws, I looked at it again today. And the code of conduct, there are certain things that are expected already in our bylaws, and we use the SOGs, we can verify, that can get it in on paper and everybody signs off on
I have a question.
Mhm.
So it keeps saying SOGs for, like the code of conduct, wouldn't that be the employee handbook? Shouldn't they follow whatever's in the employee
There's
handbook?
employee handbook portion, but what you do is because your firefighters also report to when they do that annual report, they do all the pieces of it. If you get that, it's in the, I saw it, you and I worked on it, creep into the bylaws, so I got that wording in there. And we used to argue about SOGs a lot when we went to the bylaws portion. And that's why it's also coded. If you look at the new ones that are out there, they're in there.
Right.
And so basically we're weak in that area, I'll be very honest with you, so we gotta get it documented, and basically when you document the SOGs, they all sign off on it, just like you do. I don't know if you have them sign off on the bylaws yet or not.
Mm.
No, that's one of the things I work with them on a monthly basis.
I
Go
think
ahead.
that we would need to look at the handbook and see what's in there that when we reviewed it so much and pushed it forward, I don't think there's anything that would be in conflict.
I don't either, but I
Yes.
remember reading the ones in the handbook too. And the handbook is, you're doing full, but the thing is by getting it in the SOGs, then you have it part of the Public Service Commission has a document
Right.
also.
Well, and then I think to have across the board, that the standard of job performance and performance within the village for every employee.
Now you gotta
There's gotta
remember that
be
the
a
village has
standard.
ones that standard and that's in the handbook. When it comes, this is tough, when it comes to the police department, when it comes to the fire department, you're dealing with the Public Service Commission.
Right.
So
Well,
basic,
they would enforce it, but they don't set the rules.
no, but that's what we're doing. In the SOG,
Right.
set these
And
rules.
that's where it kind of gets a little bit, cause there's two sets of rules kind of for the same employees. Village employees, but,
It should be
and I
consistent.
kind of brought that up when I first got on the board about possibly eliminating the police and fire commission because of that reason. It wasn't because, it's because fire and police are under police and fire commission, so they answer to them, while their village employees answer to our administrator and the board.
But
So
they-
it does, and that's the only reason, I don't know if you remember way back when, that was one of my, it wasn't that, hey, let's get rid of the police and fire commission. I think they do a great job hiring people and disciplining, that's great, but it's actually a
It's-
little more work because we have to have two sets of.
Right,
But it's
but-
sorry,
the Police and Fire Commission does not manage, supervise. They're just strictly hire, fire, discipline.
however, sorry, go ahead.
The administrator is the one that's really more tuned into and that's also how our org chart is set up.
Mhm.
So I think we don't need to reinvent the wheel that way, and the PFC doesn't know what's going on. Regarding the legitimacy of the PFC, I don't know if you watched Tuesday nights or listened to Tuesday night's meeting. Our chief really pointed out to us in a really simple way why we need the PFC. He didn't do it on purpose, but the way he spoke on issues and things he brought up,
Fire or chief of police? Chief,
why we need the Police and Fire Commission,
okay, was it the police chief or the fire chief?
the fire chief.
I quite didn't know what you meant.
Yeah, but some of the things that were discussed really outlined, it should not be on in this little village. the board should not be making the decisions that the police and fire commission are. I think that we get more than our share of burden, but with this kind of stuff, having an independent body, I mean, this year has shown me, lock it in cement. Because otherwise, every person on this board has felt like this is not worth it. And
Okay,
that police and fire commission helps to give us some separation. I would
Yeah.
never support eliminating that.
so let me come back to this. And come back to this piece is that, however, if I village administrator and the village board, responsibilities are is to set the policies and to set the guidelines and basically, and I look at the handbook and it's there for all employees. And again, you look at the volunteer fire department, you gotta realize they're employees, but they're volunteer and they're part-time. But when you look at how fire departments are set together, and it's called got a different number for it throughout the whole state of Wisconsin. You say SOGs, it's there's a certain piece of state statutory requirements that is laid out for firefighting and also police department. And basically, we're so small that we kind of don't, unfortunately, we leave those slide. I notice our police chief, he's taken the lexicon and updates his as we go, because I've already looked at his. And our volunteer fire department, and I don't mean this negatively, and it's going to be important, negative at all. It's a volunteer group, it's part-time, and people change officers there. At the same time, nothing negative of elected officials. Some stay longer, some change, go shorter, and they're not fully involved of an organization's procedure. Unfortunately, Port Edwards has been delayed or it hasn't been taken care of, and that needs to be structured, and that's what we're trying to do with this piece.
Right.
I'm sorry, I got off my.
Yeah, and I think we got off, sorry, but that was just saying why we had for
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
handbook and the SOGs.
Present an activity positive mindset, yeah, challenging and these are the ones that even Chief and I talked about. He asked me, are we gonna have Eric, he could see Eric Hummels in this piece. And he asked if Eric's gonna be involved, and I had emailed back, I just found out that he's gotta take a leave off, and he said, I understand it. I said, so we talked about these, and we understand that Eric's missing on this piece, so we're working on this front piece. And then the finance is something that I can work with him on, so we're kind of like, that's why the extension was on, hoping that Eric can come back and move that middle piece on. So I wanted to explain to you how we're kind of putting this together. Understandability of construction of the fire department budget. The budgets and the pros equipment, what I'm hearing and seeing, they have it in their minds and they have it in their department. And I just saw at the last Public Safety Commission, a documentation of what they're looking at equipment. And I asked a lot of questions, you weren't here, and these two were, certain things or certain piece of equipment. I just think they need to document it better, and then it's gotta be tied into, and it's just, we're personnel right now, it's gotta be tied into how many people you have. The department, and what was the department when you first started? You had 30 people on it now, and you also had the mill going, now you don't, now you're down to 17, so you gotta look at what your staff is and how you used to operate, and you say, well, wait a minute, do we need, well, we're operating now, and now we got mutual aid, if you gotta look at, you can't just say, we're gonna operate the way we did before. And that's what, when you get into the budget process, and you can tell, I think if members were, I got two members who are here from the public safety, you can see us asking those questions, because that's where you gotta go. And if nothing, again, there's nothing negative with the people who are in the fire department now. And nothing negative with elected officials, but I'm an outsider coming to your community. And I'm an outsider coming, and I see what other people have done, and I see what happened here. And nicely to say it, and I'm an off record, I shouldn't be basic, but nice to say is that the mindset needs to change here. Because you no longer have the cash cow portion of it. So that's that's part of what we need to do in this process. And not just, I'm doing it with the fire departments first, because each other department's gonna have that same philosophy.
Mhm.
And also, certain things change.
Mhm.
So that's what we put together. It's almost a living document because things change, and I don't wanna say it's just a rubber stamp. And I've been working with the chief on it. Give it to you.
Okay.
Mhm.
I don't have any other questions. Thanks for, it looks like it's pretty straightforward. Anybody have any other discussion?
I took notes of your comments over there. Go ahead.
Well, my thought was an understanding sitting with, Chief Warden and perhaps the training he received from the beginning. I don't know how much for a chief is from chief to chief. Certainly I got to sit down very shortly with my predecessor at the church, but it's an imperfect thing. We're not trained on how to hand over our job. And for chiefs, how are they, I mean, I'm sure that perhaps, hopefully, aren't set down with warden. But I'd hate to, it's difficult because it's volunteer, but I feel like it's also professional because as an employee, you're, is it too much to say you're a government, an employee? I mean, you work for the department, so it's volunteer, but it's also employee, or it's also professional, and it's a strange thing, and I wanna treat the position of both chiefs as professional, and it's a little, I don't wanna say it's difficult, but, I start to wonder how much of what he understood coming forward, is it, well, because I moved up through the system, I should already know what a chief does, so I don't need any training, it should just be sort of assumed, but it's what kind of official information does he receive? Like when you become a chief, I mean, you have to have official training because the qualifications go up and special training. But I know that there's been some comments about learning as you go along, and someone's like, I don't know how professional that feels for someone to say, I'm still learning it after so many years. And I sense I'm not the best at this, this is very hypocritical, but the kind of the paperwork, the public safety has never sat down and said, this is the exact paperwork we'd like to see from month to month. And we've talked about it. And part of that discussion is, well, I don't answer to you. And it's been sort of a play between, I listen to this person, I listen to this person, and we have talked about things, but one of the comments that I think sat perhaps poorly, and I guess I'll say it again, is like, it felt like twisting arms to get information from, and I'll just say from both departments, but particularly from the fire department, because there were times when they said, we're talking about someone from like April Hammond. Well, they knew April Hammond all along, and that they had a report. Our equipment passed its inspection. And it's like, that's something that maybe you should share with us, because that way we can celebrate and understand what you have to go through. And also that kind of, we can't ask for it because we don't know what to ask for.
Yeah.
I don't know what to ask for. And I said, that would have been helpful, because some of the things we've dealt with is things from the firefighters who said, well, this is not up to qualification. This is not up to qualification. And we had to look into it and then find out, well, we passed the qualification. Like, it would have been nice to know, because there's questions from inside and outside the department that would have worked if we had that information to share, was brought to us. And that's something that had I started a term over again, I would have said, this is what we would expect from both of our chiefs. I mean, we get the reports that we get because it's what we've kind of always done.
Bingo.
And we will ask for an extra report or paper, but it'll come once and that's it. And so that's something that's been frustrating. It's like, I wish there was an actual imprint. This is what we expect from the department, so we can see that transparency
And that's something that you can require as the chair.
Mhm.
And I will tell you personally, is being, on an employee of the village and on my department. The police department report used to probably be when the name was probably about 20-25 pages. There'd be anything from, you could look at that and tell exactly what calls, what time the calls came in, what places they came in, how many, everything. And then another person taking over, and then it kind of dropped to 2 or 3 pages. And then it kind of dropped. And I mean, and the probably maybe on the same thing with the fire department. If you want to, monthly with your meeting and you being chair, hindsight, you could say, I want to know every call, how many firemen showed up, where they were, what time, and this is what I want you to do on your report. This is what I require, because it says that they have to provide a monthly report. It doesn't say what has to be in the monthly.
Yeah.
But as a chair, you can require that. I
And-
believe.
And here, and this is what I'm going to say, because you have, with the form of government you have. Is, yes, the chair can require that, but you gotta realize you set yourself up for a small community. But you set yourself up in committees. And you set yourself up as a larger community. I'll be very honest with you. You got all these subcommittees. And a lot of you sit on them. At the same time. The thing that I've learned, and I've learned because of professional administrator, you have one. If you don't have one, then you have the chair system. You do have an administrator, and that's what I'm seeing happen here. Administrators come and go, and the staff are now leaning to chairs or asking chairs for certain things to occur. And it should be, okay, when you're gonna meet, this is what I'm looking for, administrator. This is what I wanna see at the next meeting, and that administrator is gonna work with that department head to provide that for you. No offense to the elected officials.
Right, but if we have to put the extra foot into it too, I mean, if you want to see the chief, I don't say a 20-page report is what necessary, because,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
if you want and said, I need to
I
know
think the
what this
example
is.
you gave was a little bit on the opposite. end.
Right.
That's a little too much info. I don't want to drink from
Right, but there's
hose,
things that you can
you know.
require or
Well,
ask
and
for.
when we have asked for different things, like the map is still in there, that John Bingham, that was very interesting, that had this percentage regionally,
Like, I looked at that and I couldn't
Mhm.
understand that. I'll be very
the
honest.
committee knows.
Yeah, see, and I didn't know, afterwards I realized. And they wanted to know what was happening in different parts of the
Mhm,
community, and I can see why that's there. Now, here's the situation, and nothing against elected officials again. New ones come on, there is no onboarding. I
Mhm.
talked about that already.
Right.
Mhm.
There is no onboarding, and there's also, no offense, there is no structure. Now, when I worked on you had a structure of what a committee does, what the committee is responsible for. And what is expected, and how they run the meetings, that you get more details, you have these committees. I should just stop, it's not part of the agenda.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your
like-
question pushing me into
I'm
different.
sorry.
Yeah, let's
No,
not
it's-
roll into that. Sorry, it isn't
Hope
on
I
the
did that.
agenda, and with that, if there's no other questions on the
I have
PIP.
a couple still. I specifically on the one on the top, I don't feel good about taking out the village handbook. We worked really long and hard to get all of that aligned.
Oh, number one,
Yeah,
okay, in the first bullet,
yeah, I think that must stay there because we have to
what you
have.
want, then you want the relation. It's
And
real easy.
we already worked with that with the PFC. We worked on that for a long time, getting all of that to align.
I can just change your wording, PFC requirements, that handbook, and I'll just put it back in. And no problem, I appreciate your comment, because
Thank
I
you.
looked at that handbook and. It is really worded.
Mhm.
But we need to have the same standards for all employees of the village.
Got it, thank
Um,
you.
yeah. 1 second. Documents and spreadsheet,
Which one are you down to?
a list of 2024
Mm.
department
Mhm.
training events.
Mhm.
I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be getting monthly in our meeting. The police chief provides it. I think we need to know who's gone to trainings each month.
Hmm.
So I lean more towards monthly on that.
See, I think he does put that in the bottom of his, he said, like, the other night, it was,
But I mean, more like
Versus
in,
what?
like a spreadsheet where it's check, check, here's the month, here's what everybody did. I didn't realize even that our chief wasn't going to the chiefs conferences, that we have a chunk of money that goes into every year. That's critical opportunities to collaborate, work with other chiefs, get the experience and lean on their wisdom. I think that we need that monthly spreadsheet of training opportunities and who specifically, like in the spreadsheet, who took advantage of that. The reality, we also have an issue with pay. I think we need a monthly account of who is getting paid and what calls are they going on. And then some of the recent challenges wouldn't be happening the same.
However, they report everything quarterly.
They do to the pay, but they could, and they have at times done it monthly, and I think that,
Spreadsheet I have seen this report is usually on a quarterly basis, which we look through now. If you want it on a monthly basis, you can, but I'm pretty sure. But I think I wrote down here, training, calls, who goes, et cetera. I think you're ready to build the pain, but you wanna know who's, when the calls are going out there, are you having 4 firefighters on the call? Or are you only having 2? We also have, and you're getting into really, and again, you're getting into the detail of an operation. And what you're asking for is, and I don't want to take me wrong, we're asking for what the operation does, and it's administered, et cetera. It's usually not the policymaker's question, but you want the answers because of people calling you and it's a portion of it to you, so you know what's going on.
and that we're held to account for what we're doing with the money.
True, but again, when you set the money, you set the budget, you set the money for that department takes it and manages, you're done with it.
Right,
Unless they go over,
well,
and that's where and if you wanna watch every day nick and dime, I think you're going too far as an elected official.
but I don't look at that
I
as
agree.
everyday nickel and diming, because we wouldn't,
You wanna come-
we wouldn't have any other department just going, hey, you didn't actually come, but I appreciate you.
Okay,
That's
then.
where it crosses.
So we're
the
talking about,
line.
well, we're talking about human resource again, so.
No,
here we are.
I'm not talking, I'm talking hypothetically in challenges that we have to have. All the other departments, on a weekly, who's doing their time. It's not. So I get that they don't get paid quarterly. But as it was provided at one point through BOZ, a monthly account at our meetings to be part of the report, just like Drew says, this many shifts weren't covered. It's just an account of what are we doing with our money and how are we using it to most appropriately serve the village. We got a lot of money going over there, and I think that it's appropriate to have an account.
You do. You do. You look at your sheet for the department, you look at where the pots of money are set, and that's where your accounts are. What you're looking for is more of a detailed explanation of where the money, the nickels and dimes are set and where they're put. I'm being very honest with you. If you want that, you're gonna need to change your accounting system.
So
Yeah, it's chair, I think we're getting too
Yeah,
micromanaging into any
That's why I
department.
strongly believe that you are.
And
Yep.
And you're using just one department, but I'm trying to say you gotta do that same philosophy to all. departments.
Well, and we have had those
Well-
discussions.
I think we're getting off the topic of discussion. And, I think that, with us, we set the budget set. We got people that are in place that need to be accountable for what they have in the budget. And if we start micromanaging all of it, every time they need to buy a hammer or a nail.
I'm not
I mean,
suggesting that even at all.
But
I'm not
I know where
even
you're coming from, but I
remotely.
think that if we set the budget and they come over budget on anything and it comes back to us, then we have to look at that and say, hey,
I
I-
suggest that you put this on next item.
Yeah.
So you can actually talk about what you want to talk about.
Right, I think we're getting
We're
off the
getting-
topic.
Yeah.
You know, on this fun agenda, so you need to set, we'll set a topic for next agenda. And you go through normal procedures and then you want a discussion of such and such, so you stand.
I think we're getting too much.
I don't
off
want
topic.
someone jumping on us, say we're gonna.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree.
So
No further,
regarding the PIP, with all of these things, how does it transfer into actual things that are gonna, how are we gonna take this PIP and use it to move things forward? With all the time that's put into it, how do you see this translating?
Little at a time, because the PIP is designed for myself and the fire chief to work on. And also Eric. And I'm not complaining, but this PIP came in here and something that. I'm being honest with you, 2 days being here, it's hard to put this together. I have to meet
I
one-on-one
understand.
with him. So that it's gonna, like I said, living document, we are gonna go through those, and I don't think I gave it to you, but I know. We had the certain documents we used for one of them, everybody, they had it out there, we were using for the last promotion. So every time we get something done, we're gonna have a document showing we're completed or what's going on. And that's why you asked me, how am I gonna do it? I'll be honest with you. This is a process that if you had a full department and a full HR department. You can get this thing done in 90 days. You don't have that here, so it's gonna take longer to do.
yeah, and I think, Tara, not to cut you off, but I think that
No,
this
I'm
was just an update
Mhm.
on this. And like you said, it's a working document. Thanks for the update. And if we need to go further in it, we'll put it on the agenda. I think maybe we're running a little bit off topic, so I'm gonna move on to the next one. The correspondence received, any?
From fire for,
Nothing that I'm aware of.
I'm always looking at all my emails. Sometimes I gotta. Oh, there is correspondence that, no, not written ones yet. We're okay.
Okay,
I know things that we're working on and it's gonna end up coming here.
okay. I guess, agenda items for next meeting.
I have two. Kind of. I know we've talked about Dwayne's only here as interim. We need to start kind of going towards what are we going to do? And maybe just having an evaluation from you, what you think we actually need and what is appropriate for the Village of Port Edwards. So I think starting that conversation is important. And then also, I know we don't have a formal end date for the police chief, but I know, we all know that that's coming. His 5-year contract is up in August. What his actual end date is, we don't have firmed up, but I think we do need to start walking that path of what we're going to do. And just, cause it is a lengthy process, so I don't want it to be, we find out in July, he really is gonna end, I'm not saying this is gonna happen, but just hypothetically. His last day is August 12th and or his contract date, and then, July 12th, we find, well, that's not enough time to try to find a police chief and then get him trained alongside Chief Drew. I think we need to start really being thoughtful on having those conversations with him. When is your last date? Can we get that in writing? All of that. And then also, what are our next steps for the hiring process? And then hopefully getting them to work together for a little bit of an overlap so that there's some training involved. Instead of just, okay,
Mhm.
one's going out the door and one's
Mhm.
coming in the door.
Yeah. Any other things for the agenda next?
To piggyback on that, if you look at the PFC's minutes,
Mhm.
they're trying to put a group together also.
Was that a little premature without having?
No, because she's right, but this is the timing, because he did give me, I don't know, he gave me a range already.
Mhm.
It's from
Okay.
October to the first of the year, so I told him we need that range so we can start planning, so you're right on.
Okay.
When it comes to HR and recruiting, I've seen so many times they wait till someone leaves for them, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and I just don't think that's gonna be helpful if we wait too long.
Any other agendas for next meeting? Kayla?
Yes.
A big goodbye.
farewell, put that on.
Yeah, he wants the scroll.
Cake and ice cream.
Kira, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. With that, at 5:55, without objection, we'll call the meeting.